Hand on your heart. How often have we been told that without breakfast we have no energy, that training on an empty stomach is dangerous, catabolic, muscle-wasting, ineffective? For decades, this idea has been repeated until it felt like an unquestionable truth. And yet, at the exact moment when the stomach growls and no fresh insulin is flowing through the bloodstream, something completely different happens. Something no protein bar commercial ever mentions. The body begins to switch. Not slowly, not randomly, but according to an ancient biological code that has been stored in our cells for millions of years. A study published in Cell Metabolism showed that training in a fasted state activates a cellular emergency program, a metabolic master switch that influences over 300 genes associated with fat burning, cellular repair, and even longevity. However, as soon as food is consumed before training, this switch remains silent, untouched, inactive. So the crucial question is not, have you eaten enough to be able to train? The real question is, are you missing the most biologically powerful state your body can possibly reach? In the next few minutes, step by step, it will become clear what truly happens inside the body, hour by hour, when fasting meets movement, and why strategic hunger may not be a risk, but a forgotten upgrade of your metabolism.
But to understand why this switch is so powerful, you first need to grasp a fundamental principle. The body cannot operate in growth mode and repair mode at the same time. It is like a construction manager on a massive building site. Either new walls are being erected, muscles built, energy stored, tissue constructed, or the repair crew moves in. Damaged cells are recycled, inflammation reduced, old proteins broken down. Both at the same time does not work. Every time food arrives, insulin rises. And insulin is not a bad hormone, it is a builder. It signals energy is available, time to store, time to grow, time to build. But at that exact moment, repair processes are slowed down. Autophagy, the cell's recycling program, is downregulated. Fat cells close their storage. The production of ketones does not occur. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense. Why would the body tap into valuable reserves or dismantle damaged structures when fresh energy has just been delivered? But when food is absent, priorities change. Insulin drops, glucagon rises, adrenaline increases, and suddenly the construction manager changes strategy. No longer store, no longer build, but optimize, repair, become more efficient. This is exactly where the metabolic switching moment begins, the point at which fasting and training together create a completely different biochemical reality. And this process follows a clear timeline.
What really happens when fasting meets training? 0 to 4 hours after the last meal. In the first hours after eating, the body is clearly still in growth mode. Insulin is elevated, glucose circulates in the blood, muscles primarily rely on sugar. Glycogen stores, especially in the liver and muscles, are well filled, in total about 1,500 to 2,000 calories of quickly available energy. This is the short-distance tank. If training occurs in this state, the body primarily burns exactly that, the sugar that is readily available. Biochemically, this is logical. The body always chooses the easiest path. But fat reserves remain largely locked. 4 to 8 hours. Now something begins to change. Insulin slowly declines. Glucagon rises, the counter-hormone that mobilizes stored energy. The liver begins releasing glycogen stores to keep blood sugar stable. At the same time, adrenaline increases slightly. Not enough to create stress, but enough to promote alertness. The body senses the external energy source is fading, but the major switching moment has not yet been reached. 8 to 12 hours. Now it becomes interesting. Glycogen stores increasingly empty, especially liver reserves are significantly reduced. Blood sugar remains stable, but only because the body begins to rethink its strategy. It activates lipolysis. Fat cells begin releasing fatty acids. These fatty acids are transported to the muscles and oxidize them there. At the same time, the liver slowly begins producing ketone bodies. This process is often referred to as the metabolic switch, a term popularized in part by neuroscientist Mark Mattson. It describes the moment when the body shifts from burning sugar to burning fat, and this is exactly where training massively amplifies the effect. 12 to 16 hours, the switching point. In this time window, fasting becomes physiologically noticeable. Insulin is low, growth hormone rises, norepinephrine increases. If training occurs now, a double effect is created. Muscle contraction uses up the last glycogen remnants. The energy deficit forces cells to use fat as their primary source. Studies in the British Journal of Nutrition show that subjects in this state oxidize significantly more fat during training, at identical training intensity. But the decisive advantage happens in the background. AMPK is activated, a cellular energy sensor. SIRT1 is stimulated, an enzyme associated with longevity. MOTR, the growth pathway, is inhibited, which favors repair processes. This is where autophagy begins, the cellular recycling process for whose discovery Yoshinori Ohsumi received the Nobel Prize in 2016, identifies damaged cellular components and breaks them down in a controlled manner. Fasting alone activates autophagy moderately. Training alone does as well, but the combination amplifies the effect. During training in a fasted state, now the evolutionary core comes into play. Adrenaline rises significantly, focus sharpens, blood circulation improves. At the same time, temporarily, the release of growth hormone explodes. Studies show increases of several hundred to over 1,000% compared to resting levels. Important, these spikes are temporary, but they are sufficient to promote lipolysis and support muscle preservation. At the same time, mitochondria multiply. A publication in Nature Metabolism 2023 suggests that training in a fasted state sends stronger signals for mitochondrial biogenesis. More mitochondria mean more energy production, more metabolic flexibility, more endurance. Elite athletes have significantly higher mitochondrial density, not only because of their training, but because of metabolic adaptation. Fasting plus movement accelerates exactly this adaptation. But every coin has two sides. If the body is stressed for too long without adaptation, if sleep is lacking or chronic stress is present, cortisol can rise. Too frequent intense fasted training can then become counterproductive. The key lies not in extremes, but in strategy. And this is where the next crucial question arises. What are the real benefits and where are the clear limits?
Benefits and risks, scientifically contextualized. When fasting meets training, no miracle cure is created. A biological state is created. And this state brings clear advantages, but only under certain conditions. 1. Improved fat burning and metabolic flexibility. The most obvious effect is increased fat oxidation. In the fasted state, insulin levels are low. This facilitates access to stored fatty acids. Studies consistently show that more fat is used as an energy source during training when no food was consumed beforehand. But the deeper benefit lies not only in acute fat burning, it lies in metabolic flexibility. This means the body learns to switch flexibly between burning sugar and burning fat. People with metabolic disorders, such as insulin resistance, lose exactly this flexibility. Regular fasted training can improve this ability, not overnight, but over weeks. 2. Improved insulin sensitivity. Less frequent insulin spikes mean higher cellular sensitivity in the long term. Insulin sensitivity is one of the central markers of metabolic health. It influences energy levels, fat distribution, inflammatory processes, risk of type 2 diabetes. Fasting combined with movement acts like training for glucose metabolism. 3. Cellular repair and autophagy. Autophagy is not a myth, but it is also not a permanent state. It is a temporary process that is particularly activated under energy deficit. Training enhances the AMPK signals that support this process. But important, most data on autophagy come from animal models. In humans, direct measurement is complex. The evidence is promising, but not yet fully clarified. This does not mean the effect does not exist. It simply means science is a process, not a marketing promise. 4. Growth hormone, reality instead of exaggeration. Yes, growth hormone rises significantly during fasted training. But this increase is short-term. It does not replace anabolic nutrition. It does not build muscle without a training stimulus. Its role lies primarily in supporting lipolysis, protecting muscle mass, promoting repair processes. It is an amplifier, not a miracle cure.
Now to the other side. Not everyone should train fasted. People with type 1 diabetes, a history of eating disorders, underweight, pregnancy, chronic adrenal exhaustion, severe sleep deprivation, should exercise special caution or seek medical advice. Women may also respond more sensitively to longer fasting windows, especially with very low body fat or high training volume. And another point is often ignored. If intense fasted training is performed too frequently, cortisol can remain chronically elevated. This can negatively affect sleep, recovery, and hormonal balance. Fasting is a tool, not a dogma. The crucial truth: the body is neither fragile nor infinitely resilient. It responds to stimuli. It adapts, It optimizes when given space to do so. Strategic restriction can be a signal. Chronic stress can be one too. The difference lies in the dosage. And this brings us back to the original question. Is training in a fasted state dangerous, or is it a return to a biological state for which the human organism was originally designed? The answer is nuanced. It is not a must, but it is a powerful tool when used intelligently. Conclusion. When fasting and training meet, more than just fat burning happens. The body shifts into a state of increased efficiency. Insulin drops, fat reserves open, mitochondria multiply, repair processes are initiated. But this state is not a competition. It is not about not eating as long as possible. It is about occasionally giving the body the opportunity to activate its evolutionary software. So perhaps the real question is not whether you should eat before training, but how often do you give your body the opportunity to operate without constant energy supply? Observe yourself. Test carefully. Listen to the signals. And if you are interested in how to use fasting strategically, without muscle loss, and without energy crashes, then write your experiences or questions in the comments. And do not forget to subscribe if you want to understand what is really happening inside your body.